Okay, well, wherever you're finding these jokes, Mike, run them through ChatGPT and say, write this joke, just make it better.
Mr. Puntastic.
All right. Thanks for coming on the Mr. Puntastic Pod. Joseph, we're so excited to have you. My name is Micah, and this is Paul. And we host this podcast together because we just think it's a lot of fun to hang out and talk to interesting people about interesting things, including things like faith and family and business and pop culture and all things that intersect in our life stage. So we're excited to have you on the pod. Joseph, thank you so much.
Heck yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Hey, Paul, I think this would be a good one for you to kick us off because we have a lot of different segments that we like to talk about. And last week we had a lot of fun with this, but we have one, and maybe it doesn't relate to you totally, Joseph, but I kind of want to get it rolling right off the bat. But there's a segment we call the Danny Glover segment. Can you kind of give us a quick synopsis of that, Paul?
Yeah. Now, people that are listening to this may not know who you are, so I'm excited to get to know you a little bit.
That's right.
And I find that one of the best ways to get to know people is to understand their aches and pains and how they age not so gracefully. Now, you're a little younger than Micah and I are. We are men of a certain age in our early to mid 40s. We like to do a segment on the show called the Danny Glover segment. If you're familiar with Danny Glover, the fantastic actor of stage and screen, maybe most famous for his role as Detective Roger Murtaugh in the Lethal Weapon series opposite Mel Gibson. And he would famously, anytime something would happen, he would famously say, "I'm getting too old for this." So anyway, Danny Glover, I'm getting too old for this. Is there anything in your life that you would say, man, I'm getting too old for this?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm going to use this opportunity to brag about myself. I'm 49, but I feel so young. I'm probably in the best shape of my life. Last year, I ran 5 marathons. So I can outrun kids in middle school. I could outrun middle-aged people. I could outrun a lot of people. So ran 5 marathons last year. And one of them was a extreme ultra marathon. So what am I too old for? And then also, I still have little nieces and nephews, so I can go, play video games, go play kids games, sit on the floor and play with them, or I can, run 25, 30 miles on a Saturday. So, man, that's a hard question for me. But
Well, this was a lot of fun, Joseph. Thanks for joining us. It was great to meet you. Appreciate the time. I did my research because that's what a true host does. By doing research, it just means I scrolled through your Instagram. There was one video I found where you were running and doing sort of maybe you're as old as you feel. I think it was something like, there will be a time where you don't have, your legs don't work and can't get out and run. So get out and do it now. And I was inspired. But the thing that I loved the most about it was in the background, like the song you were playing was "There's No Easy Way Out," which a lot of people don't know, but it was like the montage song from Over the Top, starring Sylvester Stallone, which is one of the greatest movies of all time, certainly the greatest arm wrestling movie of all time. I don't know if you remember that post, but if you do, were you intentional about that choice in that song, or is it just like, this feels super cheesy? Because what I'm hoping for is that you were like, no, I love 80s montages, and that inspired me to be a filmmaker. But I'm curious to hear how that came.
they were like, have you heard of this guy Nardwar, where he just goes in deep and asks people the most random questions about their backstory and their life?
No.
You're the new Nardwar. I was not. I would love to say it was our artistic and very intentional choice about my music that I put my Instagram stories. That one it just felt like it fit the vibe, but now I'm second guessing my decisions there.
No need. I thought it was great. It fit perfectly. But, you're, as I understand it, you're a filmmaker. You're in the entertainment world. How did you get into that? How did you find your way into being behind the camera?
Yeah, I feel like everything that has happened in my life so far is just feels a little bit random from the outside, but also feels a little bit of every time I just decide, hey, you know what? I want to try this. I want to do this. I just try the most unconventional ways to get into it. So probably like 6, 7 years ago was when I first started making videos, and they were super like just pulling out my phone. I didn't even have an iPhone at this point. I don't remember what phone I had, but it was like kind of an older Android, and started making videos on my phone, and then figuring out how to, transfer files and edit them on my laptop and edit little videos, and then start do little family vlogs and do little poetry videos. The more I start to do that, the more I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. So that kind of led into starting a little bit of a journey on YouTube, but more like a journey towards just like content creation, specifically like video production. So like kind of going through a few different like points in life where I'm like, oh, I don't know what I want to do next. So I just started like really running towards video production, and it led to a couple opportunities where I convinced people to let me do videos for them, for their businesses or whatever. And then slowly that started to grow to the point where I was able to do it full time. And then even while I was enjoying that, I'm like, I started seeing like things and I've always been interested in the behind the scenes of movies specifically, and I watched the little DVDs behind the scenes of how Star Wars was made and all that. And so I decided I wanted to start working in film. But I had like I didn't know a single person who was making movies. This was what, probably 4 or 5 years ago. Didn't know a single person who was making movies, and I just started looking for any possible opportunities. And then a friend asked me to volunteer on some project, and then that led to volunteering on another little independent web series project. And then a couple years ago, it led to someone that I met from somewhere knew about a TV show that was hiring, and I've gotten that. So that has kind of a year and a half ago worked on my first studio project. Is a TV show here in Fort Worth called Vast Reeves, and then led to another opportunity after another opportunity, and it's been a lot of fun.
Nice. When people find out that you are in television and all that stuff, is there a common question you get? I mean, working on Yellowstone, I'm assuming they were like, what's Kevin Costner like? Even though I don't think you were even in the same state as him at the time. But is there a question that people ask all the time?
Probably the first question is like unaware of like what I'm even talking about, because they're like, wait, you're in Texas and you're working on a TV shows. A lot of people aren't even aware of how many cities outside of LA. Atlanta, I think people are a little bit more aware of it. Austin, people are a little bit more aware of it. But when you come to like Dallas, people are like, wait, TV shows are happening here. So like that's the first one. And then obviously like the question like, oh, who's the famous people you've met type of thing, which is fun as well.
Before you, I think, were on these projects, or maybe current with them, you were doing a couple different podcasts as well. You had one called The Inspired Business Leader, which I recorded with you, and I don't think we ever released that episode.
Oh, it's out. It's out. You can find it on Spotify.
Oh, really? I was like, I don't think that ever came out. And then there was one, it was for like a website. You were doing some interviews, like Nocturnal or something like that.
Yeah.
But specifically with the Nocturnal ones, you were doing a bunch of like, you were like press junket interviews kind of, right? So someone released, there'd be a new Disney Plus show or a movie, or, somebody was releasing something, and, these actors, and they have these quick interviews with like a bunch of people. And so you were interviewing people sort of rapid fire, or they were being interviewed rapid fire, and you got like a spot. Am I right in my prediction of that's how those went?
Yeah. Inspired Business Leader, that's still going. We do that in seasons. We'll circle back around to the next season here soon for the Inspired Business Leader. And Nocturnal, still working with them. It's interesting how they do promotions in that format for movies, and it's really effective because they start to build just a different audience. And I mean, people who are fans of those shows will kind of watch all these different interviews. So yeah, it's been fun to meet people, and it's been fun also to interview, like, obviously the actors, but also like I love talking to directors or producers or people who wrote these shows and talking about things that they just like, hearing about how these shows and series and movies get made.
Yeah, tell me about that, because it kind of piggybacks off of Paul's question, which is, what do most people ask you? But what are some of the most notable, interesting conversations you've had?
I always love hearing about the origin story of like anyone or anything, like especially when someone has had these TV shows that have been in their mind and they've been working on for like years and decades, and how they just are relentless to go after writing it and keep going and trying to get this produced. It's like a lot of times, like a TV show, a movie is like 2 decades in the making of like from when they first had the ideation or from when they first came across the story. Sometimes it's stories that have been around for a while, but have never gotten made into something, right? So I love hearing those. I love hearing the stories about how the different pieces get connected of like, how this actor becomes part of this project, how, someone works on set with someone and then like 6, 7 years later, they're working on something else and they're like, hey, this person would be really good for this project. Those stories always relate in terms of like things outside of the movie industry, in terms of
Right.
the relentlessness it takes to make something and the value of relationships and all that.
What maybe was a connection that you have made through all this time, trying to break into this industry and everything, that was really key for you, that really helped you or propelled you at least get on a project or anything like that?
Yeah. And it's usually the ones that are like peer to peer or ones that you're like, for me, it's not, I haven't impressed like a famous director or movie actor yet that's like, oh, because something cool I did or some connection or conversation or party I was at that they're like, hey, you're gonna be the next guy up in line. It's a lot of times it's just people who are kind of right in the shoes that I am, or sometimes it's people who are even like in a different part of the journey. Opportunities like my friend Ronnie, he's kind of in the same shoes as I am the last few years. He's an actor here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, Ronnie Wright, and he helped me get on the first show. I think he was working as a stand-in for that, and he's not even an actual actor on screen for the show. But and then he heard about opportunity. I texted him, and he was someone that I was already saw around on other independent projects, and then he got me into that, and that led to other opportunities. It is funny how a lot of times when people think about like networking or trying to get connections, or like, okay, got to go straight to the top, got to
Mm-hmm.
go, find whatever the most popular producer, actor, and get his attention. But sometimes, like, I'm just a big believer in being consistent and doing what you can do, doing it best as your ability, and like being kind to everyone around you and building connections with everyone around you, because that always leads to good things.
That's awesome. I really
So
like that.
how do you navigate? Because you're doing a lot of things with the podcast and then actually working on shows. I mean, how do you navigate sort of like the path that you're on? I mean, it sounds like you kind of take a I don't want to minimize it and say it's like whatever happens next, but it doesn't sound like you're super, like, all right, I'm gonna do this by this point, and then that'll lead to this other thing. Like, how do you? I mean, you strike me as a guy that's okay with organic and okay with like, I'll just feel it out a little bit. How do you navigate that? Like, because you're doing so many different things all at once.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, especially at the beginning of the journey, is you just do things and try things and start figuring out, like, especially early 20s.
Or your early to mid 40s. Yeah, either way, but go ahead.
Yeah. In mid 40s, early 20s, 75, whatever stage you're at, and like, right, like you try different things, and nothing's ever a failure in life, right? Like nothing ever is like total waste, because you learn something about yourself, you learn something about other things. So a lot of things that I'm like, oh, weren't like a quote like success, right? Or like didn't create any momentum in that project itself, but like it develops us, right? So, and then more recently, it's like getting a little bit more laser focused and getting a little bit more things. Oh, here's the things that actually work. Here's the things that actually create opportunities, make money, people care about, and focusing more on those. I definitely am very like goal oriented, and I'm very focused, and I'm very like, I have like a very clear goals of like, I really want to direct really good movies. Like that's where I'm running towards. But there's not like a college master's degree path of like, do this for 7 years and they'll be asking you to make whatever the next Pulp Fiction.
I love
Yeah.
that. So right now I'm curious. I've been doing a deep dive into Stoic philosophy. By doing a deep dive into Stoic philosophy, what I mean is I've been following Ryan Holiday on Instagram and looking at little things online. I haven't actually read anything, but I'm fascinated by this idea of everything existing either within your control or outside of your control, and focusing on the things that you can control, and sort of the freedom emotionally, intellectually that comes with it, and not judging yourself or whatever. So like for you, how do you I mean, is that a part of your process of thinking through, like, you know, and you said nothing is a failure, right? So like, how do you, not judge yourself when you do something dumb, or when you make a mistake? Like, I guess, how do you stay locked into that place of just controlling what's in front of me and doing the things I love and kind of following this path, knowing that you have a goal in mind, but I guess, how do you let yourself off the hook for the dumb stuff and keep moving forward?
Yeah, I still sometimes look back at something that I did when I was like 9 and 10 and still cringe at that. I haven't figured out how to like totally destroy all cringe from my past. I still look at things a few years ago and I'm like, what an idiot I was. Why is our mind wired that way, in the sense of like, we, all these things that have happened over the years, some of them great things, some of them like traumatic things, but like we focus on the cringe thing. So whoever writes the next book on that, how to destroy cringe from your memory, I would love that. I would also like think about like, it's inevitable that like you're gonna have some little successes and you're gonna have some little failures, and it's inevitable that like, rejection of any kind, failure of any kind is gonna hurt. But at the end of the day, you can't dwell on that. And the best thing is, I'll give you a good cringe story. Yesterday at church, singing a good song. We were singing "Holy, Holy, Holy," one of those classic hymns. And they did a little break between like second and third verse, and I was like singing loud, singing my heart out, and I didn't know there was a musical break. And now they started the third verse before everyone else. So, like at the end of the day, it's like I looked over at a couple friends, they made eye contact, we laughed together. I could be ashamed of myself and never show up again in public because of the humiliation I faced yesterday. But at the end of the day, you laugh at it and you laugh at yourself about it. And then you get back up and you try again. And then next time you pay attention a little bit more, and when you're singing the songs at church.
I think one of the things that's so fascinating, you talk about those cringe moments, right? Is like, in the moment, you absolutely know this is the move, right? Like, this shirt is really going to work. That line I'm going to use on this girl is really going to work. Or like when we were in high school, Micah had like the Justin Bieber hair, like he would do the swoop. He would do the swoop.
It was great. Yep.
And in the moment, he's like, this is going to work. And then you look back on it 20, 30 years later and you think, well, Micah still looked pretty good. But, then you look back and you're like, it's not just the decision made, but it's also how absolutely certain you were that it was the move. Like, you start singing that line because you're like, this is what we do. It's holy, holy, holy. I'm going all in. And then it's like, oh, now I feel.
And the thing is, I kind of am curious about, whatever that picture is of Micah when he's younger, but look at him now. Like, he still has the mature rock star look, like you look at like, they either go once you hit like 43 as like a pop star, rock star, you either got to go like, you just go classy and you go like, you go the Micah look, or you just keep going crazy and you keep doing the blue hair and you keep doing the, spikes in here, and everyone knows like, okay, this guy is not in his 40s, and that's cringe, but you can redeem yourself.
What's really funny about this whole conversation? First of all, Paul, I can't believe you didn't go straight for my sideburns in high school, because those suckers were...
We all made a choice on
straight down.
You were the best of the worst.
Second of all, it's really funny to talk about like this musician thing, because last night someone gifted my oldest son and I tickets to a classic Christian artist concert, goes by the name of Jeremy Camp. And we, it was a great show. It was crazy production, all that, which I'm actually more interested in than his actual music. I'm like, oh, wow, that's really fun. I was watching this guy to the side because you can see his whole crew because they don't have enough backstage area. They're actually on the side of the stage. And this guy controlling like it's not like a haze machine, but it's like it's like haze, but it like comes out in spurts and it goes straight up. I don't know what you call it, but he had a button, and I knew when he was going to press it because he was dancing, and he would go, psh, psh, and it was really funny because he was like, it's part of the show. But second of all, I was looking at him going, I remember seeing him like 20 years ago on stage, or 15 years ago or whatever, and he looks exactly the same. His hair color hasn't changed, which then took me down a mental road of he dyes his hair, because I obviously have got gray hair. It's always funny to me when you someone's age but first of all, he's very fit, so that's great for him. But he's not a gray hair in sight, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. Well, at some point in his life, he decided I don't ever want to have gray hair, so I'm assuming he's either got crazy genetics because he's older than I am, or he just doesn't. He dyes it, and that's a choice. And I'm not judging him for it. I'm just saying that that's kind of funny that you're talking about this rock star thing. You know, this kind of
I didn't have Jeremy Camp's hair color routine on the outline for this conversation. So this is a nice little jaunt.
This is what we call a side quest. But it's all right. We can come back to the main thing. And, you know, one of the things that we want to do with this podcast is we kind of want to continue on this idea of a guest quest. So the idea is that we would really like to talk to very interesting people, and we have a targeted list. Now, my targeted list grows all the time because I think, oh, that person would be interesting. That person would be interesting. And Joseph, you jumped on pretty quickly after I texted you. You were like, yeah, I'm down. But some other people that I've reached out to, I don't know personally. So, for instance, I sent a cold email to Jesse Cole. Do you guys know who Jesse Cole is?
No.
He is the creator of the Savannah Bananas. The guy in the yellow suit. Yeah, not to be confused with Curious George, guy in the yellow suit, but it's Jesse Cole. So I sent him an email on Friday, and I got a really nice response, which I did not expect because I expect most of this just to go to trash, from his executive rock star, Taylor Tinker. So she sent me an email, says, thank you so much for the invitation. He's very focused on the tour right now. Everybody on staff is focused on the Banana World Tour. We don't have time right now, but if that changes, I'll reach back out to you, which I thought was very kind of her to respond and give me that feedback. So the moment this tour ends, I'm going to email this Taylor back. But she said there's a little picture at the bottom. And in the picture, there's a hot take section where it's like, this is my hot take on this or that. And hers is very interesting. So here's the hot take. And I want to get your take on this. Hot take: bacon is overrated. And to me, those are fighting words. But I'd like to hear your perspective.
Well, first of all, I didn't know the Banana World Tour was happening right now. I think we're missing out, you know, a little part of culture that, you know, the bananas are touring all over the world.
They are.
Right through it, and we forgot to follow. Bacon, the thing is, bacon and American culture rated pretty high, right? So, like, I would say, honestly, properly rated. More breakfast sausage. That would be more my style. Or I would say bacon's probably properly rated.
This was the exact answer that I was going to give as well. I'm a huge bacon fan, but like, even if you're keto and you're going all in on, you know, high protein, whatever, it's not a great source of protein. It's more fatty. It's delicious. But I think the culture says bacon is the greatest thing ever. They're not wrong, but I think it's properly rated. To say overrated, that's a hot take for sure, but I would say properly rated.
That's a very strong stance to take. I mean, to be almost against.
Almost aggressive.
Aggressive. Taylor.
Like, I didn't know there was an anti-bacon group out there.
Movement. Yeah.
Maybe there's a movement. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I think Taylor, we got some questions for you. Maybe we should have you on the podcast. Anyways.
Wait, are bananas overrated or underrated or properly rated? But because they have a baseball team named after them, but no one has a bacon baseball team.
Yes. Maybe they should have a bacon baseball team.
I mean, I could see the mascot costume now, just a piece of bacon sizzling.
Yeah. You can get it on Amazon for like $9.
Yeah.
Same with the banana. Gosh. Okay. So I have also cold emailed a few other people, some notable people. And maybe Joseph, you've got a connection to somebody here. I cold emailed Forrest Frank, who's a very popular musician right now. But I told my assistant this morning, we had a meeting this morning, and she goes, oh, you know, I went to school with him. It's like, you did not. She's like, yes, I did. I'm like, okay, maybe you should talk to him then. So maybe we can get Forrest Frank on. The other person, which I think is really funny, and mostly it's funny to my family because my daughter and my wife really like this show called Outdaughtered. Outdaughtered is a TV show about, it's a reality show, and there's a couple that has a set of quintuplets and then another daughter, and so that's why they're outdaughtered. So the dad is kind of funny on it, and so I cold emailed an email that I found for him, which is probably outdated, but you never know. We'll see if we can get Adam Busby on the pod. So I think that would be really interesting. So there's some interesting people. I'll just try to, broaden the horizons here and get a little further out. Paul, have you thought of anybody recently that you thought you'd like to invite to the pod?
No, I mean, we've talked about this quite a little bit. And, Joseph, to give you some context, this was an idea we had at the beginning of putting this whole thing together, that like we'd have a season-long quest. And so we had talked about like, okay, we got to figure out who we want as our target guest. And then we'll have this quest. And we haven't even landed on that. So we're now 3 episodes in, and I haven't even thought of a single person yet. We keep bringing it up, which is maybe not a good move. Joseph, any thoughts on who we should talk to?
I mean, I think the Danny Glover podcast interview is inevitable. So I think you just got to keep tagging. I don't know what he's on. Find what he's on.
Yeah.
He's probably on MySpace or something. Sharpen clips out there, wherever Danny Glover lives on the internet. If not, I mean, I've seen some people in Atlanta, people would do billboards. Tyler Perry, go to this video and hire us for your next show or something. I've seen crazy ways people have tried to get podcast guests on, but honestly, like, you just gotta, I think the strategy that has worked for me, because I've had some that have just Instagram DM, some through just tweeting out. I've seen some people just like kind of post clips about something or someone, and not just tagging them randomly, but like, if you have a clip about someone that's like funny, and if they see it, they'll find it funny, right? And then maybe they'll see on social media, comment on it. You can start a conversation that way. But yeah, just keep trying.
That is a really good idea to why not have Danny Glover on? Though I would be a little worried that, like, because I'm sure he gets asked that all the time. Like, hey, can you say I'm getting too old for this, right? And so I feel like we'd have him on for an hour, and we'd talk about a lot of things, and all I would want is for him to say it in the curmudgeonly, like, grumpy voice, and he just wouldn't deliver. So yeah, I don't know, but you got to take risks, right?
Yeah.
Even if we're disappointed.
I think some other great ones, or another great one, and I say this with purpose, is Jim Gaffigan, comedian Jim Gaffigan, right? He'd be great. And the reason is because this morning, it's my birthday. I'm 43. And I got this text from Jim Gaffigan this morning. It says, Micah, hope you're having a great birthday. You're my favorite person I don't know, but I occasionally text. Have a good one. Wow. So I think that's really fun. Now, I know that that's just his Superphone account texting whoever's birthday it is who's signed up for his Superphone text messages. But I think that's super fun that now I can like share that little screenshot with whoever I want. Be like, hey, look who texted me this morning. So anyway.
Way to ruin the magic, by the way.
I'm not going to pretend automations don't happen. I'm not going to pretend that he knows anything about his subscriber list on Superphone, but I still think it's kind of fun.
By the way, can I just say, one, I knew it was your birthday. I texted you early this morning. You're welcome. But we also mentioned it before we started recording. So Joseph, already very enthusiastically, said happy birthday. So I just didn't want people who are listening to this to think that we just blew past that and didn't give you the customary happy birthday, because you said today's my birthday, and you were like, no, yeah, Mike would just be very, very angry and using that button all the time. But Joseph, I have one question that struck me, and I always appreciate this in people, is before we started recording, we were kind of talking about what we do. Micah mentioned casually that it was his birthday, and you responded with like a great deal of enthusiasm. It was like, oh, no way, happy birthday. Like just a very genuine, super enthusiastic thing. And I thought immediately, this is a guy that I like, because you're just enthusiastic. Where does that come from? Have you always been that guy that's like super just pumped about a lot of things?
No, actually, it was a totally fake reaction. That was just pre-programmed.
Well,
it's just like pre-programmed in my mind. Whenever someone says birthday, just start busting out.
Fake it.
So you just got it. That's part of the film industry too. Everything's acting. So active, enthusiastic about everything. And when you're a little frustrated at life, you hide that too. And you really want to show how powerful you are. You really let everyone know how angry you are when you're angry. So what a great question. I think there's a certain aspect of, I'm naturally a little bit more of an optimist and naturally a little bit more of like, what the heck? I'm just going to be happy and excited no matter what's going on. And guess what? It's Micah's 43rd birthday.
I'm really happy that you asked that question, Paul, because I was thinking, wow, that was really nice too. And now I'm thinking, oh, that's really sad that I just got.
It went from being like super nice to like, oh wow, that's awful. Like I went from being like, man, Joseph is great to being like, kind of a jerk. No, oh, terrible. But hey, that's your journey. That's okay.
Yeah, just like Jim Gaffigan did with his super generic like message that he sends to like millions of other people.
Yeah.
It's like when you log on to Facebook for your birthday, it was like 200 people just sending a generic happy birthday. I'm like, shout out to them. And I try to comment under all of them. Thank you. But I just, makes you feel a little bit more loved on one day a year. And they everyone looks on your wall and posts a little happy birthday.
I used to go through and write HBD on like all of those. And today,
you still do that?
No, I haven't done that in years. But today I got a text from Paul's wife, Jen, that said HBD.
That's awesome. Forever, Micah would write HBD, and I would be like, "What is this? You can't write happy birthday. This is garbage. Like we've known each other 30 years. You can't actually write out happy birthday. You just got to abbreviate everything." So, I'm glad she did that.
Yeah, I'll never live it down. Hey, last week when we were talking, Paul, we talked a good bit about the show Family Matters, and we talked about Steve Urkel, whose real name is Jaleel White. So after that, and I don't know if it was like my phone, algorithm, they heard us talking or whatever, but I started seeing Jaleel White stuff. And turns out he's going to be in a new Disney Plus show, which is a Star Wars related show. It's called The Skeleton Crew. Have you heard about this?
I'm hoping you're about to tell me that he's going to do it as Urkel, because that would be delightful.
Like it's the same character.
Joseph, do you know Family Matters?
Yeah, of course. I'm not that young. I was not at all watching it when it released. I was watching reruns on Nick and Night when I was
of course,
a teenager. But,
of course.
Yeah, of course. I know Family Matters.
Yeah. I think
I have not heard about Jaleel White's turn in the Star Wars universe.
What's funny is I haven't seen him in anything for a while. Maybe I just missed it. But I really like the Star Wars stuff that Disney Plus puts out. And Joseph sometimes interviews people that are in these things. So I think Joseph should interview Jaleel White. That would be amazing. So you just have to find a way to him, Joseph.
Heck yeah. I mean, you guys don't give up either. You should have him on your show.
The guest quest.
I did get Reginald Bell Johnson from
Johnson?
Film Matters. I interviewed him once. He was very kind and one of the great TV dads up there with Danny Tanner and all the great TV dads. So, yes, I had a short interview with him. But yeah, I mean, we'll send out those cold emails and hopefully they get Jaleel White on our shows.
If you get him, you pass him to us. If we get him, we'll pass him to you. Let's team up on this. Let's make it happen, because I think he's just an iconic person from at least my upbringing for sure. So anyway, the show comes out on December 3rd is when it drops on Disney Plus. So
you're plugging
No way.
Plugging Jaleel White's show.
No way. That's your birthday?
30th birthday. So
Cool.
hopefully Star Wars makes
Happy
it.
birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday, man.
Was that your Urkel voice?
Yeah.
I got practice my herbal voice before for that interview.
We have one more segment here. We like to end our show with a segment. And I think it's my favorite segment, honestly. And it's called Pun and Done. Okay?
Pun and done.
All right, so here's the deal.
Pun and done.
We're going to rapid fire. I hope you've brought a piece of comedy for us. Any puns or dad jokes, anything that might make our kids groan by embarrassment, but might make us chuckle, we're going to ask that question. We're going to do that. So, do you have any such jokes or puns at the ready?
Let's go. I thought about a ChatGPT and some, but nah, that's even ChatGPT is gonna steal it from somewhere, and I'm gonna get found out that these are not original jokes. But I did create original material for this.
Okay, hold on. Pause. You created original. This is amazing. I just have to recognize that because I have a list that I have stolen from other people that I've seen. I have not created a single one of these things, but I am excited to hear your original jokes. Go for it.
I'm extremely against stealing comedy, specifically stealing tweets, stealing Facebook posts. If you follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you follow me, all the comedy is completely original. That's why it sucks. No, person.
That's why I'm not against it. Because mine would suck
First one.
too. Okay, go.
What do the hosts of this podcast use to heat food? A microwave.
Ooh,
Well done.
Okay.
See,
nice.
I think the buildup that you gave him, Micah, was like a bacon situation where it had turned it into this is very, very exciting. Solid effort, Joseph.
I think it was great.
Material is great.
That was great.
All right, next. I'm reading this book on Moby Dick. Probably heard of it. It's like a 500-600 page book. But I started listening to the audiobook. And then I got like so far into it that I'm like, I decided that I'm not going to turn back. I'm like, might as well finish it. I'm like 30 hours into reading like the audiobook version. So I've got like 5 more hours left of it. So I've been putting this off for like months. But, you know, a group of fish is called a school, but a group of whales is called a pod. So Moby Dick is about podcasting.
Oh, I like this. I like this.
Okay. Last one.
Give him the crickets.
Good.
I love the crickets on that one.
I love the cricket.
You got any more?
No, that's
Okay.
it.
Okay, so
I reached for the bottom of the barrel. The barrel was almost empty.
You scraped the bottom. Okay, so what do you call a teacher that never farts in public?
I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, you do. What is it, Paul? Can I share?
It's a private tutor.
That's correct. It's a private tutor. What do you call a moose with no name? Anonymous. All right, last one. What kind of pants does a sidekick wear? It's a pretty simple answer. A pair of normal pants.
Okay, well, wherever you're finding these jokes, Mike, run them through ChatGPT and say, write this joke, just make it better.
You don't understand. See, the goal is the groan. So if I can get like my family to groan at me while I'm laughing, I have won. That is it.
Yeah,
These are groan worthy.
That last joke was like a belt made out of watches. A waste of time.
See, Paul's better at this than me.
There you go. What did the house wear to the prom? Address.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Address.
Address. I get it. Yeah.
Right. When does bread go bad?
When?
When you yeast expect it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I
I'm
appreciate
going to make
that.
it my mission to end every podcast with a joke where yeast is the punchline. Well, hey, Joseph, in the last couple seconds here, why don't you tell where can everybody find you? What are some things that you're working on right now?
Yeah. So Instagram's the main place I'm active. That just the Joe Henkel on Instagram, and just usually just posting stupid stuff 50% of the time and 50% what I'm actually up to. And working on, I just finished a short film this year, so I'm super excited about that. It's called Counterplays. It's like a 12-minute drama film, and filmed it here in Fort Worth and putting in film festivals right now. So really excited to get that out there, and then probably end of the year I'll put out online somewhere. But that's what I'm kind of like most excited about right now. And always doing video production in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So staying busy, but main place to connect is Instagram. And if you want to check out some things I worked on, IMDb.
Love it. Awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time for joining our little podcast here, third episode. So amazing job. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you. Good luck with everything. And, keep working on those original puns because they're not there yet, but maybe one day.
Maybe one day. That's not his life pursuit, but
Don't worry, it'll get worse.
That'll be worse. Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Joseph. Appreciate you. We'll see you later.
Absolutely.
Mr. Puntastic.